गोवा गोवा हे भारताच्या पश्चिम किनाऱ्यावरचं निसर्गाच्या दृष्टीने अतिशय संपन्न, अगदी वरदान लाभलेलं एक लहानसं राज्य. आंबा, फणस, नारळी, पोपळी, सुपारीच्या विस्तीर्ण बागा, त्याच्या जोडीला उंच आणि उंच असे डोंगर, त्या डोंगरांच्या दऱ्या आणि एका बाजूला असलेला विस्तीर्ण असा सुंदर समुद्र किनारा. म्हटलं की अगदी गोवा आपल्या डोळ्यासमोर येतो. म्हणजे अगदी क्षेत्रफळाच्या दृष्टीने विचार केला तर 3702 चौरस किलोमीटर इतका हा प्रदेश, आणि 2011च्या जनगणनेनुसार जर सांगायचं झालं तर फक्त 14,85,545 इतकी नगण्य लोकसंख्या.
I'm Dr. Rohit Ramakant Phalgaonkar. I am an assistant professor in the Department of History in Sant Soirabanath Amey Government College of Arts and Commerce in Pedne, and basically working on ancient culture or the Portuguese past of Goa.
नमस्कार, मी भूषण विठ्ठल भावे, विद्याप्रबोधिनी वाणिज्य शिक्षण संगणक व व्यवस्थापन महाविद्यालय परवरी या महाविद्यालयाचा मी प्राचार्य आहे. केवळ काही हजार वर्गमीटर लांबी रुंदी असलेली ही भूमी पाहायला एकदम एखाद्या जिल्ह्यासारखी, अन्य राज्यातल्या जिल्ह्या एवढी सुद्धा नाही, परंतु तिचं सांस्कृतिक वैविध्य आपण पाहिलं तर मन थक्क होतं. स्थापत्यशास्त्र, शिल्पशास्त्र, संगीत, मंदिर निर्माण अशा अनेक विद्याशाखामध्ये हजारो वर्षांची परंपरा या भूमीला आहे आणि आजतागायत ती टिकून आहे. म्हणजे अजूनही अशी स्थळं दाखवता येतील जिथे ज्यावेळी सिमेंटचा पण शोध लागला नव्हता, आधुनिक स्थापत्यशास्त्राची काही संरचना झाली नव्हती, अशा काळात गोव्यात बांधलेली मंदिरं असतील, आधी कळसं मगपायासारखी हेमाडपंथी रचना असेल.
गोवा हा प्रदेश आहे सुंदर सुंदर अशा देवळांचा, कर्तृत्ववान लोकांचा. त्या गोव्यामागे अतिशय संपन्न असा एक इतिहास आहे. तो इतिहास फारसा कोणाला ठाऊक नाही. म्हणजे अगदी ओळखच करून द्यायची तर बघा ना, संगीताच्या क्षेत्रात ज्यांना अगदी सगळा भारत नव्हे तर सगळं जग ओळखतं अशी मंगेशकर भावंड, त्यांच्या जोडीला असलेले अभिषेकी बुवांचे अभिषेकी पितापुत्र मोगूबाई कुर्डीकर, ही सगळी संपन्न माणसं, संपन्न गायक मंडळी गोव्यानंच तर प्रसवली. विज्ञानाच्या क्षेत्रात सांगायचं झालं तर शास्त्रज्ञ अनिल काकोडकर, रघुनाथ माशेलकर, ही मंडळी सुद्धा गोव्याचीच. साहित्याच्या क्षेत्राचा जर विचार कराल तर लेखक आणि संशोधक का प्रियोळकर आणि त्यांच्या बरोबरीनं माझ्या गोव्याच्या भूमीत गड्या नारळ मधाचे, गड्या कपारींमधुनी घट फुटती दुधाचे, असं सुंदर वर्णन करणारे बाकीबाब म्हणजे बाभ बोरकर, हे सुद्धा या गोव्याचेच नाही का.
मग गोव्याचं वैशिष्ट्य काय होतं पोर्तुगीज येण्या अगोदर हे जर आपण पाहिलं, एक वैशिष्ट्यपूर्ण अशी संस्कृती गोव्याला लाभली. म्हणजे ही रामभूमी का कृष्णभूमी असा प्रश्न कोणी केला तर इथे रामही आहे, कारण ही परशुराम निर्मित भूमी आहे असं मायथॉलॉजी सांगते. आणि ते म्हणत असताना आपण काही अशा भाकड कथावर विश्वास ठेवत नाही की कोणी बाण मारला आणि कोणी जमीन निर्माण केली, परंतु सामान्यांना समजावण्यासाठी हा वैज्ञानिक सिद्धांत, ज्याला रिसरेक्शन ऑफ लँड फ्रॉम सी म्हणतो, समुद्रापासून भूमी निर्माण होण्याची जी सतत प्रक्रिया निसर्गामध्ये चालू असते, तीच प्रक्रिया इथे याच्यात या कहाणीतून पाहायला मिळते.
खरं तर महाराष्ट्रातला कोकणाचा भाग आणि मग जसं आपण खाली सरकतो तसतसा पुढचा भाग, हा सगळा एक विस्तीर्ण पट्टा म्हणजे परशुराम क्षेत्र म्हणून ओळखला जातो. परशुराम क्षेत्र असं का म्हणतात बरं याला? याचं महत्वाचं कारण म्हणजे अनेक वर्षांपूर्वी भगवान परशुरामांनी ही समुद्राच्या आसपासची जमीन मागून घेतली, तयार केली. असंही म्हणतात की तो समुद्र मागे झाला आणि त्याच्यानंतर मग त्या सगळ्या जमिनीवरती राहण्यायोग्य म्हणजे वसाहत करण्यायोग्य परिस्थिती परशुरामांनी निर्माण केली, म्हणून ती परशुराम भूमी.
इथे गोव्यातून उत्तरेला आपण गोवा पार करून आपण सावंतवाडीत जातो, तिथे पेडणे नावाचा तालुका आहे. तिथे हरमल नावाचं फार प्रसिद्ध आताचं बीच आहे. परशुरामानं केलेल्या या भूमीच्या शुद्धीकरणासाठी आणि स्थिरीकरणासाठी, कारण समुद्रातून ही भूमी निर्माण झाली असल्यामुळं तिचं स्थिरीकरण आवश्यक होतं. त्यामुळे परशुरामानं म्हणजे कोणीतरी पूर्वजांना या भूमीच्या स्थिरीकरणासाठी जो यज्ञ तिथं केला, त्याचे अंश अजूनही तिथे शिल्लक आहेत. अशा प्रकारचे अनेक संदर्भ गोव्यामध्ये परशुरामाच्या संदर्भात सापडतात, म्हणून ही रामभूमी म्हणावी. पण त्याचबरोबर आपण लिटरली जर नंबर ऑफ टेम्पल्स मोजली गोव्याची तर कृष्णाची जास्ती. संबंधित उत्सव आणि परंपरा जर आपण मोजल्या तर त्या कृष्णाच्या जास्ती आहेत. कृष्ण लीला असतील, गवळणकाला असेल, काला असेल, चिखलकाला असेल, हे सगळं नरकासूर वधाचा इथे फार मोठा उत्सव केला जातो. फार कमी ठिकाणी भारतात हा नरकासूर वधाचा उत्सव साजरा केला जातो, त्यात गोवा आहे. तर तरीही कृष्णाकडे जोडलेली भूमी आपण ही मानतो.
गोव्यातल्या लोकांना गोमांतकीय असंही आपण म्हणतो. गोमांतकीय का म्हणत असू बरं? त्याचा संदर्भ सांगताना तिथले काही विद्वान असं म्हणतात की कुठेतरी गोमांतक या शब्दाचं नातं गोवंशाकडे आहे.
इथल्या म्हणी, इथले वाक्प्रचार, याच्यामध्ये गायी आणि कॅटल कल्चर, गो संस्कृती या संदर्भात अनेक कहावते, अनेक म्हणी त्याच्यामध्ये सापडतात. या सगळ्यावरून ही भूमी गोमंत हे जे नाव आहे किंवा गोवा हे जे नाव आहे ते गो संस्कृतीकडे जोडलेलंच नाव असावं असं जे अनेक विद्वानांनी त्या बाबतीत म्हटलेलं आहे ते खरं असण्याची शक्यता जास्त वृद्धिंगत होते. गो म्हणजे गाय, मंत म्हणजे युक्त आणि क म्हणजे लहान प्रदेश मिळून हा गोमंतक शब्द बनला असावा असं मत अनेक विद्वानांनी इतिहासामध्ये व्यक्त केलेलं आहे. मौर्यापासून, भोजापासून कदंब राजवटीपर्यंत अनेक राजवटी ज्या इथे आल्या आहेत आणि आपलं एक विशिष्ट असं देणं या भूमीला दिलं.
You find a lot of dynasties entering into Goa's region, which is so-called today's Goa, I suppose. And the earliest known kings, okay, were the Bhoj. And the copper plates of these Bhoj kings date to around 5th to 6th century CE. Basically, every history has to have a supportive evidence. As as paper came, paper was used widely, maybe for communication or for writing of records. Before that, we have records written either on stone or on metal, especially in the case of India. And here we have something called as the copper plates, or they are also called as Tamarpat, Tamrashasan, Shasanpat, whatever you call them in the local parlance. Okay, this is something which we call as copper plates. Okay, basically they are records of the old ancient period or the medieval period, you can say, and these are made of copper sheets. And if you look at these copper plates, you will find that they start with a line. So when you read them, you can actually make out, there's a way of in which they were written. Like first they will make a mention about the name of the king, then they will make a mention about the dynasty if he is belonging to, and the purpose of issuing these copper plates. So just like how today circulars are issued or letters are issued, in that period that paper was not existing, such kinds of records were kind of made and they were issued. And that is why they were called as Tamrashasan or Tamarpat. And today they become a very good source of history, especially for Goa's history. This particular copper plate belongs to a king by name Malik Bahadur. Okay, he is called as Malik Boduru, and he speaks about his minister whose name is Vimna Mantri. And very interestingly, these copper plates are making a reference of sorting out issues between two communities or two families for that matter, and that issue was sorted out in Ponda Taluka and in a village called Khandegram, which is called as Khandegram here. Actually, that Khandegram presently is called as Khandepar, and these family issues were sorted out, and Vimna Mantri made sure that these communities made friends or they had cordial relationships. They forgot all their bad memories, and there were items which were exchanged in the temple of Khandepar. So though it is not pertaining to a particular record of Goa's history, but the initial write-up of the copper plates introduction, which makes a mention about Malik Boduru ruling over Goa and all that on this particular year, and this particular minister was there, we come to know about Goa's administrative part. So this is how these become a very integral part of Goa's history. These are dating to 1348. These are the biggest found in Goa till now. There are previous also which are smaller and the sizes have varied. Unfortunately, when the ring had to pass through, it was it had to be like this. So it was like a book at that time. There was a hole here. There's a hole here which was pierced, and it would be opened like this. So this was done to prevent the damage in the write-up.
So they had to be kept covered, and there was a hinge here. So this, if at all the surface would get damaged, the writing inside would remain intact. Now this is written in a script which is called as Hare Kannada, and the language is Old Marathi. So this is of 1348.
And earliest known copper plates are belonging to a king by name Devraj Bhoj. And these copper plates speak about Devraj Bhoj ruling from a place called Chandraur. And they were found in Goa. They were found in a place called Shiroda in the taluka of Ponda. So this Chandraur, or subsequently it became Chandrapur, which is identified with Chandrapur today. Later on, during the Portuguese period, it was called as Sandar, which is a part of Salset taluka. This Chandrapur probably might have been the earliest kingdom or the first kingdom of this Devraj Bhoj. So here we find written records of kings ruling over Goa. You have rulers like Prithvi Malla Varman, you have rulers like Ashankit Varman, you have records of other Bhoj rulers who speak about various places in Goa that makes us, or that tells us that these Bhoj rulers had made Goa as a part of their territory. Now, all their records date to around 5th to 6th century CE. In 1931, there was excavation held in Chandrapur or Chandar, and that was held by a Jesuit priest by name Father Henry Harris. When he excavated the area, he unearthed a huge temple complex, and that temple complex had a Nandi in front of it. So, it is 101% established that that was a temple of Shiva, and that is how this Chandravarman Shivapur might have been Chandrapur. Then we have various other rulers like the Chalukyas of Badami, then you have the Shilahars, and then finally you have in 960 CE, that is somewhere in the 10th century, the Goa Kadam dynasty establishing their hold over Goa.
परंतु यातली सगळ्यात महत्वाची राजवट, ज्या राजवटीमध्ये गोव्याचा भरभराट झाला, गोव्याचं नाव देश विदेशापर्यंत पोहोचलं, ती राजवट म्हणजे कदंब राजवट असं आपण मानतो.
If you go to Chandar, village elders of Chandar will tell you that there is something called as Mamlayachi Tembi, and on that they might have, there might have been a war or a battle where the first Kadam king of Goa, Sashtadev first, he defeated this Shilahar king Mamuri, and that was the site where the battle had taken place. So Chandrapur was beautiful, or the crescent of Goa's capital city at that time, and every ruler who wanted to come to Goa wanted to have their control over Chandrapur. So 960 CE you find Sashtadev establishing his hold over Goa, and at the same time he builds a temple dedicated to Shiva again, or Mahadev, and that was built in a place, in a village called Kurdi in the Sange taluka. The inscription stone says that Shashtadev first, who built the temple, styled himself as Raja Maharaja Dhiraj. So that means he was trying to take control over a huge region of the Konkan area. Then you have various kings following him. His successors were very instrumental in developing Goa.
चंद्रपूर म्हणजे महाराष्ट्रातलं नाही बरं का, चंद्रपूर हे तिकडे गोव्यातलं, त्याला चांदोर हल्ली म्हणतात. चांदोर ही राजधानीचं शहर होतं, आणि त्याच्यानंतर सांगायचं झालं तर 1054 मध्ये कदंब राजवटीनं आपली राजधानी हलवली, ती होती गोवापुरी, ज्याला आपण गोवा वेल्हे म्हणून ओळखतो. मग पुढे काळ जसजसा गेला तसतसं 1312 मध्ये मुसलमानांनी ती राजधानी म्हणजे गोवा वेल्हे लुटलं, आणि पुन्हा एकदा चंद्रपूर म्हणजे चांदोरला राजधानीचं शहर हलवण्यात आलं.
Now Chandrapur remained as a capital till somewhere around 12th century, and later on that capital was shifted to a place called Goa Vellia, which is presently located in the taluka of Tiswadi. So from Salset they shifted the capital to Tiswadi. The reason is still unknown why the capital was shifted. What were the main reasons for it? Because we don't find any reasons in any of their records. So some of the historians opine that probably it was of the siltation of the river Kushavati, because the Goa Kadam dynasty based their trade on the river network. Okay, and when the Kushavati was being silted, so that became difficult for the ships to come in to the port of Chandrapur. So they had to find another natural port, which was the place identified as Goa Velia, and that Goa Velia was called as Gopak. It was also called as Gove. Because there was a port city there, it was called as Gopak Pattan. There are fascinating facts about this city. There are descriptions about this city having gardens, beautiful alleys, clean pathways. The houses of the people living in the city were whitewashed. They were plastered. There were temples of Bharati. There were temples of Vagdevi. There was a temple of Chamundeshwari. And there are records which explicitly state that the city had beautiful fields and beautiful gardens. So one can imagine that during the 12th century, that whole area of Gopak, which is today called as Goa Velia, was a bustling city. And these records are very clear of what the city description is all about. Of course, considering the time frame, 11th century, 12th century, development in that era cannot be compared to the development of the modern era. But in their records, you find the type of the city which they had, and municipal administration or the administration with regards to the layout of the city, or administration or the whole agricultural settlement. That is something which is commendable. There is no other words to express. And to so much so that they have not interfered with the traditional system. Gaonkari also seems to have existed in those times. When the Portuguese came here, you find the Portuguese in the initial phase messing or trying to, create a distortion, between the cultural framework of this particular region. Somewhere during the modern period, you find the Portuguese developing the city of Panji. But at the same time, we should understand that Panji also has a reference in the Kadam records. It is called as Pahajan Khalli, and there was a governor appointed to look after that Pahajan Khalli. So Pahajan Khalli, when a governor is appointed to look after a particular region, that means that region had real economic importance and it existed. So what the Portuguese have done is they have expanded the city, they have developed the city. Likewise, trains and telegraphs and all those things have come in with the modern development which has taken place all over the world. It was not exclusively for Goa. You have these things happening all over the world, and they have come in subsequently. But it may not be right to say that it was just one, only the Portuguese responsible for Goa's development. They have contributed the development in their own particular way, but before that we should just take a look and see what was pre-Portuguese Goa. Records of Jaikeshi first speak about Goa having trade relations with Zanzibar, Kuwait, Bengal, Gujarat, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and even with Sri Lanka. So you can just see the connections established by these kings, and they had put Goa on an international map.
व्यापाराच्या दृष्टीने म्हणाल तर गोपकपट्टण हे तेव्हाच्या गोव्यातलं व्यापारासाठीचं सगळ्यात महत्त्वाचं बंदर होतं आणि अरबी आणि रोमन देशांमध्ये त्या बंदरावरून सतत व्यापार चालायचा. तुम्हाला उदाहरण सांगायचं तर अगदी सुपारी, भात, सोनं, धातू, माणिक, पाचू या सगळ्यांचा व्यापार वेगवेगळ्या देशांमध्ये व्हायचा तो या गोपकपट्टण बंदरातून.
And an interesting aspect of this is I would like to share with you is that the ships which came from places other than India, like Zanzibar or Sri Lanka or wherever, Kuwait, their taxes were higher than the ships which came from India. So one thing we have to understand that at that time also the concept of Bharat did exist. So though there were small ruling dynasties and here and there, the whole concept of idea of one land did exist. It appears that way, and it is just not one record which speaks that. There are other records of this dynasty which speak about Bharat, the land of Bharat. They belong to the land of Bharat. Now we are only talking about Goa as Gopak, as a part of Kadam city. But what about Chandrapur? Chandrapur was existing. They did not give up on Chandrapur, though they had shifted the capital city. There are records which speak that Chandrapur is also a Rajdhani. So perhaps it was a kind of a modern day satellite city also, like how we have these metropolitan cities at that today. So Chandrapur also existed, Tandar existed. They had their royal quarters there. At the same time, Gopakpattan or Gopak also existed. Now, somewhere, the last Kadam king to be known through the records is Sashtadev III. After him, we do not come across any Goa Kadam king. What happened to them, we do not know. There are records which speak that Sashtadev did not have a son, perhaps. So his sister was married to the Ratta Kadam king of Saundatti, and that is how his name was Kamdev, and that is how Kamdev got the kingdom of Goa. Then somewhere in 1344, I suppose, we have Ibn Battuta writing about Goa, and he speaks about Nawab of Honnavar attacking the city of Chandrapur, where the city was destroyed by him, okay, and it was completely floored. By that time, the Kadam kings had already lost their control over Goa. Sandar was destroyed, Chandrapur was destroyed when Nawab attacked it, and later on you find lot of Father Henry Eyre speaks about Alauddin Khilji's army destroying Chandrapur. So the city was attacked more than twice, and the whole Kadam dynasty vanished from the Goa's soil. Likewise, after that we also don't get any records of what has happened to Gopak or Gopakpattan. So perhaps after the downfall of the Kadam dynasty, Gopakpattan also might have lost its significance. But there are records of 1351 speaking about Gopak. What might have happened is after Gopak or Goa the dynasty came to an end, the governors who were appointed by these kings to control various regions of Goa might have declared their supremacy. So you have records of 1348 where there is a person by name Malik Bahadur governing over Goa. There is another copper plate of 1351 which speaks about King Bhim Bhupal controlling the north part of Goa. There is another record of King Nagdev Varma controlling again the north part of Goa. So these were the governors who took charge over Goa. Then you have a very interesting record of the Vijayanagar king somewhere of 1380, Hariyar II, coming down with his armies and trying to control or drive away the Turks. Turkshas are mentioned. And his very efficient minister, whose name was Madhav Mantri, his record speaks about rebuilding the temple of Saptakoteshwar or Saptanath on the island of Goa, which was destroyed by the Muslims. So this is very clear that you have the kings of Vijayanagar coming to Goa and making Goa as a part of their kingdom. After you have Vijayanagars, coming to an end, the Bahamanis, you have the Adil Shahis coming to Goa, and finally Goa is taken over by the Portuguese on 25th November 1510. And that is how you find the Portuguese taking over only a part of Goa, that is Old Goa, which is in Tiswadi Taluka today.
त्यामुळे स्वाभाविकपणे पोर्तुगीजांनी हे बंदर का घ्यावंसं वाटलं, केरळ त्यांच्या ताब्यात असताना सुद्धा त्यांचा डोळा गोमंतकावर का होता, यामागचं सगळं गणित हे व्यापारी गणित आहे. ज्या बंदरातून 16-17 देशाशी आपले व्यापारी संबंध होते, अगदी झांझिबार पर्यंत, त्या बंदरावर आपली सत्ता असावी असं पोर्तुगीजांना फार आधीपासून वाटत होतं. आणि त्यामुळं इतिहासात जसं आपण वाचले की तिमय्या नावाच्या सरदारानं प्रार्थना केल्यानंतर इथल्या मुसलमानांचा नायनाट करण्यासाठी पोर्तुगीज इथे आले आणि त्यांनी सुरुवातीला तिसवाडी शहर ताब्यात घेतले.
आता इतका समृद्ध आणि संपन्न प्रदेश म्हटल्यानंतर आक्रमकांची इथे नजर जाणार नाही तर काय. म्हणजे पोर्तुगीज लोक गोव्यामध्ये आले आणि इथलं सगळं वातावरण अगदी आवडल्यामुळे ते इथे आले आणि स्थिरावले. खरं तर आपल्याकडचा इतिहास असा आहे ना की जे परकीय आक्रमक इथे आले ते येताना व्यापाराच्या उद्देशाने आले, पण व्यापार सोडून त्यांनी इथला प्रदेश बळकावला, ते इथले सत्ताधीश झाले. पोर्तुगीजांनी तसंच केलं. पोर्तुगीजांनी गोवा आपल्या ताब्यात घेतला, पण फक्त शासन करून ते थांबले नाहीत. पोर्तुगीजांनी इथली संस्कृती, इथला धर्म त्यावर ताबा मिळवण्याचा प्रयत्न केला आणि तब्बल 450 वर्ष पोर्तुगीजांनी गोव्यावर आपली सत्ता चालवली. ती फक्त राजकीय नव्हती, त्यामागे धार्मिक सुद्धा भाग होता.
1510 पासून हा इतिहास सुरू होतो पोर्तुगीजांचा, आणि 1510 ते 1961 पर्यंत 450 वर्षांचा जो हा इतिहास आहे, त्या इतिहासामध्ये पोर्तुगीजांनी काय दिलं आपल्याला, तर उर्वरित भारतावर युरोपियनांची, ब्रिटिशांची राजवट होती, आणि हे पण युरोपियच होते. खाली दक्षिणेला डच होते, फ्रेंच होते, काही ठिकाणी 4-5 सत्ता युरोपातल्या इथे होत्या. त्यातली सगळ्यात दीर्घकाळ राहणारी सत्ता म्हणजे गोव्यावरची पोर्तुगीज सत्ता. ब्रिटिशांनी 150-200 वर्ष राज्य केलं आणि बाकी सर्व सत्ता 70-80 वर्षांच्या होत्या. तर प्रदीर्घ काळ ज्या भूमीवर विदेशी राजवट राहिली अशी ही भूमी, आणि स्वाभाविकपणे ज्याला गोव्याचे थोर स्वातंत्र्य सेनानी टी.बी. कुन्ना यांनी डिनॅशनलायझेशन म्हटलं, गोमंतकीयांचं अराष्ट्रीयकरण किंवा गोमंतकीयांच्या राष्ट्रीयत्वाचा ऱ्हास करण्याचा प्रयत्न हा या भूमीमध्ये फार मोठ्या प्रमाणात झालेला दृष्टीस पडतो. आणि त्याचं प्रमुख कारण हे इन्क्विजिशन आहे.
During the initial phase of the Portuguese rule, you have the Portuguese coming up with something called as the Inquisition, which was a kind of an institution which was aimed at spreading Christianity. And here you have an era where the temples were shifted to kind of prevent them from the destruction. There were decrees which banned traditions, cultures, and you have lot of people migrating from Iswadi, Salsette and Bardes with their deities to prevent them from being Christianized.
द रिअल हिस्ट्री ऑफ गोवा या सिरीज मध्ये आपण जाणून घेणार आहोत की पोर्तुगीजांआधी गोवा कसा आणि किती समृद्ध होता, त्याच्यानंतर पोर्तुगीजांनी इथे इन्क्विजिशन का आणि कसं आणलं, इन्क्विजिशनमुळे इथल्या स्थानिक लोकांचे आणि नवधर्मांतरितांचे कसे हाल झाले, पोर्तुगीजांनी हिंदू मंदिरं कशी उद्ध्वस्त केली, त्या उद्ध्वस्त मंदिरांनंतर इथे स्थलांतर कशा प्रमाणात झाली, आणि सगळ्यात महत्वाचं म्हणजे कुंकोळी गावातला रणसंग्राम, ज्या रणसंग्रामामध्ये तिथल्या स्थानिक लोकांनी पोर्तुगीज पाद्र्यांना यमसदनी पाठवलं. खरं म्हणजे अनेकांना असं वाटतं बरं का की पोर्तुगीज येण्यापूर्वी गोव्याला काही इतिहासच नव्हता, म्हणजे पोर्तुगीजांचा इतिहास म्हणजे गोव्याचा इतिहास. अनेकांचा तर असाही समज आहे की पोर्तुगीज इथे आले आणि त्यांनी गोवा अगदी अंतर्बाह्य बदलून टाकला, गोव्याचा प्रचंड विकास केला. पण असं नाहीये बरं का. पोर्तुगीज इथे आले ते गोव्याचा विकास करण्यासाठी नाही, ते इथे आले गोवा ओरबाडण्यासाठी. त्यांनी इथे अनेक हिंदूंची कत्तल केली, मंदिरं उद्ध्वस्त केली आणि अक्षरशः गोवा नासवला.